Hello, good morning, and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Gerber here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering the importance of church on this year Tuesday morning, Rise and Shine. The importance of church we're looking at this morning here as we cover an important topic here: health ministries. What type of health ministries that we need to be doing as churches? This is what we're going to be looking at this morning here, and how important it is to match the health ministries to what's going on in the world. So, welcome again to our live talk program. Hopefully, you had a blessed night rest, and thanks for joining me. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you again for your word, for your wisdom, and for the insights that you give us of how best to live and take care of ourselves. May you be with us, dear Lord, as we continue to build, grow, and gain greater understanding of how, dear Lord, to minister to others. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So this morning again, we're looking for our importance of church. We're looking at health ministries, how to be able to build sustainable health ministries and health ministries that deals with the problems in our society, address the problems in our society. This is what we want to do here on our live talk program this morning here. So what I have to share with you this morning is an article, and this article here is taken from USA Today. So I'm going to go jump right into the article. And I want to share this article with you about what's going on. As you know, there's a lot of debate and discussion going on with Obamacare and various different things. But this article highlights some of the problems that's happening and some of the efforts that are being put forward in our society to try to deal with some of the health problem from a church point of view. So I thought this was important to share. And then we're going to talk about health ministries that needs to be done in the church. So this article is entitled "With Congress stalled on health care, blacks still looking within their community to bridge the health disparity." So with Congress stalled on health care, blacks still looking within their communities to bridge the health disparities. So this is from USA Today, and this is from Birmingham, Alabama. In a small room down the hall in the Greater Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, about 2 dozen people listened one recent afternoon as Donald Solomon rattled off ailments ravaging African American communities. "We're a sick crowd. Whatever is wrong in the community, we have it worse. We need to get health into the church," says Solomon, a founder of Congregations for Public Health and co-author of Body and Soul, a health living guide for church leaders. For 4 days in late July, pastors, deacons, folks running church kitchens and health ministries gathered in the Birmingham church to discuss a range of issues, including health concerns disproportionately affecting African Americans in their congregations and communities. The conference, sponsored by the Alabama Baptist State Congress of Christian Education, drew hundreds from across the state. It was one of several efforts nationwide aimed at helping close the health gap between blacks and whites. In other places, barbers are checking customers' blood pressure, local corner stores are stocking shelves with fresh produce, and some preachers are even banning fried chicken from Sunday church dinner. African Americans, particularly men, continue to lag behind their white counterparts on a host of health issues, including diabetes, heart disease, and HIV. Nowhere is this disparity more true than in the Deep South, where many blacks live and where there's a long history of discrimination, poor health, and insufficient health insurance coverage. While the disparity isn't new, experts say it could get worse. As Congress debates how to overhaul the Affordable Care Act, expert community activists and pastors say African American men are more likely than any other group, to be left behind. Republican alternative to the ACA, considered in House and Senate, have included massive cuts to Medicaid, which experts say would hit black men especially hard. At a time when we should really be working toward trying to close the disparity, any action that rolls back coverage only widens that gap, says Corey Wigman, state health chair for the Mississippi NCAA and director of the Hope Policy Institute, a public policy think tank based in Jackson. We should be working to strengthen policies that ensure access to care rather than limit care. Black men are more likely than their white counterparts to suffer with chronic conditions like obesity, cancer, and diabetes. Black men are less likely to have a regular doctor or health insurance, according to a 2012 report by the Kaiser Family Foundation, which examined the disparity. The report found that 15.7% of white men were uninsured, compared to 28.8% of black men. Medicaid expansion under the 2010 Affordable Care Act made many more men eligible for coverage, increasing their access to providers and medication, health expert says. Because of that, they will be especially vulnerable if Medicaid expansion are rolled back, said Mark Morale, president of the National Urban League. Any effort to restrict the expansion of Medicaid will have a detrimental, negative, and devastating effect on African Americans, particularly on African American men, he said. Morale said the healthcare legislation should also address broader social issues, including health, education, and poverty. Health care disparities Healthcare disparities is a complicated subject, and I don't think anyone bill would comprehensively address all of the issues of health disparity, he says. Samantha Artiga, director of the Disparity Policy Project and associate director for the program on Medicaid and the uninsured of the Kaiser Family Foundation, said under the ACA, some groups, including communities of color, did get more health insurance coverage, but that alone doesn't address the significant disparities for black men. Coverage alone is not going to do it, she said. It's just one piece that will help reduce the disparities. Artiga says other factors including gaps in income, education, access to healthy food, and neighborhood amenities also drives a difference in health. For decades, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and the Congressional Asian and Pacific American Caucus have teamed to introduce measures to address disparities. The groups plan to reintroduce the Health Equity and Accountability Act, which would expand resources for minority doctors and nurses and other medical professionals, fund more research, and target funds for community-focused programs. Sponsors, mostly Democrats, acknowledge chances for passage are slim in the Republican-controlled Congress. We keep pushing, and we know maybe we will get it, says Representative Robin Kelly, a Democrat from Illinois and chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus Health Brain Trust. Kelly said the GOP health care proposal will do little to address the disparities. I think we will backtrack, she said. Black men will be left out, but I think black families in general will be hurt. In May, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported some rare positive news regarding health and race. African Americans are generally living longer than in 2000, and the gap between blacks and whites is closing. But a history of distrust of government by blacks persists, stemming from scandals including the 40-year Tuskegee experiment, in which government researchers intentionally withheld treatment from African American men with syphilis. Wiggins says distrust is just one barrier. He says the high unemployment among black men is a major issue since health coverage is often tied to a job. Some activists says the responsibility falls on black men themselves. Michael O. Minor, pastor of the Hill Hernando Oak Hill Wow. Oak Hill Baptist Church in Hernando, Mississippi, said it has been hard getting black men to sign up for coverage even before the ACA. A lot of African American men just don't worry about getting health insurance, says Minor. I didn't really expect to see a lot of African American men jumping to get health insurance because it's not in our DNA to want to go to the doctor. Meanwhile, there is a targeted effort to address disparity across the South at churches, universities, barbershop, and health salon. Armed with a 4-year grant from the CDC, the Minority Health and Health Disparity Research Center at the University of Alabama at Birmingham launched the Birmingham Reach for Better Health programs in 2014. In partnership with local organizations, the program aimed to improve the health of African Americans in the city by addressing key factors in health disparities, nutrition, and exercise. In one effort, a partner works with corner stores owner to make space for their shelves for fresh produce. This allows community members to have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, says Teresa Wynn Wallace, the project program director. It's a learning curve, and our partners had to start small and work their way up to having full display in each stores. Another effort involves physicians giving patients a prescription to exercise and connecting them with one of the city's park. A few miles away from the university, more than 400 people register for the Alabama Baptist State Congress for Christian Education Conference. Participants pack classes that focus on diabetes, Alzheimer's, and HIV issues that disproportionately affect blacks. We're just trying to bring better health and awareness to our community, says Dorothy McAdory, who helped coordinate the conference and is the chief administrator assistant at the Reverend Jonathan McPherson, the dean of the Congress. Some had already launched efforts. In lieu of the Bible study at the Mercy Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, the church hosts a forum each quarter in issues from diabetes to hypertension to depression. The church also offers more health food options. We're looking at the individual holistically as opposed to just looking at spiritually, says Johnny Hollis Jr., the church pastor, or Johnny Hollis Jr., the church pastor. There has been a paradigm shift in the way we think about eating. There has to be a paradigm shift in the way we think about exercising. Every fifth Sunday, the Faith Baptist Church in Bessemer, Alabama, Darlene Cotton checks the blood pressure of her fellow churchgoers to complement the health topic of the day. We're dying because of lack of knowledge, says Cotton, a nurse at the University of Alabama at Birmingham and the church health care coordinator. Access is one of the main thing. A lot of times we don't even know about programs or acts. Marian Little shocked the congregation at the new Mount Moriah Baptist Church last year when she told members that menu would no longer include fried chicken. I said we are becoming health conscious and we won't have any fried chicken, she recalled. They said fried chicken is gone. I said, yes, get used to the baked chicken, they said. The church has also substituted water for sugary drink and yogurt for ice cream, along with holding exercise classes and stocking the community food pantry with healthy options. Michael Wesley, pastor of the Greater Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, which hosts the conference, said church must step up. Clergy cannot just only be concerned about what goes on inside the church. We have to be concerned about the warfare that exists outside the church, he says. Shiloh started Community Garden hosted a 6-week exercise program and offered baked chicken as an option to fried. On Sunday, churchgoers can get their blood pressure checked. The idea is to engage the congregation in healthy ministries and healthy lifestyle, Wesley said. Ultimately, not only your congregation is impacted, but your community. End of article. So I thought this was interesting just to share what various different churches down in Alabama, as that article was focused in that area, are doing to try to address the health concerns of their community. And this, I believe, every church should be doing, trying to deal with what's going on in the community and the concerns with those are going on. And just a little note here, as part of the end of the article, or one of the numbers in the article, is that health disparities in blacks and whites share of adults who are obese. So when it comes on to blacks, 39% of blacks are obese, 28% of white. So that's 11%, 10% different, 11%, 10% different, something like that, 11%. Share of adults without health insurance, 16% of blacks don't have, and 11% of whites. All right, death rates from heart disease per 100,000 people, 211 for blacks and 170 for whites. So just in general, this is what, not much of a numbers there, but some numbers, just to kind of elaborate about what's going on there in our communities. All right. So here's that article. So various different churches are doing something. As some of the churches saying they're doing is banning fried chicken from their lunch. So when they have their lunch, they don't allow anything. As I said, she told the menu members that the menu for lunch would be no longer have fried chicken, they'll bake the chicken instead. So this just goes to show what's happening in general, that the problem with obesity, the problem with the various different diseases that comes along with obesity, the problem with the high sugary drinks, the problem with the immoral lifestyle that increase STDs, all of that is impacting the community. And it's obvious that the insurance will help, because at least you'll be able to be diagnosed and figure out what's going on. But it cannot be the only solution, and it will not be the only solution, because the problem, again, is a lot of the problem is not so much what people are doing lifestyle moral wise, but also what people are doing eating wise and exercise, and just the simple overall lifestyle. And so if you notice, these churches now are trying to do health ministries. This was something that as a church, Seventh Adventists always believed in and tried to. And as you know, that some of that is being rolled back, because now you can go to churches and it is not so much a promotion of health. The time for lunch is not really used anymore as a promotion for health. Anything is eaten in the church lunch, fellowship lunch. But as you know, because the problem is so bad with the health of the people in the society, especially now talking about this article here in the black community, that they're talking about rolling back and doing something from a church level to affect the health of the people and to encourage the people to start making better health choices. So I want to talk and spend the rest of the time just talking about what the church is supposed to be doing to boost health ministries, because I believe this is really a dire need in all communities. And what do I mean by that is that no matter what community you have or you live in, there's always a need. There's always something that is hitting the community hard, health-wise. It's just not every community is the same. So if you go into one community, as they say, probably in the black community, they would say HIV, they would say their diabetes, they said high blood pressure, coronary problems. While in another community, they might have a problem where depression, suicide is a bigger focus, or cancer. Remember, if I'm in a certain community, like a white community, they will be more praying. Like I'm in church and I would observe what people are praying for, and they will pray a lot for cancer or depression. Because that's what their problem is. They're dying at higher rates in those communities. If probably you were in a community where it's Native Americans, they'll be praying a lot more for depression, for diabetes, that type of thing. So it's still all health, and everything I'm going to say here is appropriate for any community. It's all health, but there's certain problems that you would focus more. But every community is being hit by something. It's just like with everybody has a weakness inside their system. You just have to know your weakness, and that becomes your bigger focus. Your focus might not be addictive products, or your focus might not be depression, or your focus might not be, eating too much food, but you're going to have some issues that you have to deal with. And as you notice, then it applies. So since the article was about what's going on in the black community, as from the numbers, the black community experience higher rates of obesity. It's normally, I guess, an accepted thing in the black community in America to be to be bigger. That's just normally what it is. The type of food eaten is more the type of low nutrition, high energy foods that creates more either clogging of the arteries, even if the person is smaller, or larger bodies. It's just the type of food. It's not necessarily anything per se with a person being black or anything. It's just the culture and the diet creates people that are bigger and sicker. So to me, that would be the focus. You would say, well, we're going to focus more ministry-wise on this issue and make this issue become the issue from a church. And the reason I think the church is important to do this because the church is the only place you go that try to address, technically, on paper at least, supposed to be trying to address the moral failing and the weaknesses of society and the suffering of society, in essence. And when you think about it, that most hospitals and food pantries and relief agencies were really started by church or by Christians. The whole concept of Christianity especially is that you help the person no matter how hard they've made their life and no matter how bad they have done purposefully or by accident. You still say, well, God's grace cover, I'm going to help you out here. And so the church focuses should be on trying to minister to whatever need, because ministry is just ministry. People have made ministry become something that you just preach. But back in the past, if you look at Christ's ministry, he did more healing and taking care of people's needs than he did preaching. He spent a lot of time just healing the sick. And so again, when people are suffering, you got to deal with them wherever they're suffering or however they're suffering. So when you contemplate that, then you can contemplate the idea of some of what I'm going to talk about here, which is what type of help ministries we're supposed to be doing. Now, first thing I'm going to say here towards that is that there's one type of help ministry I think is needed that is not possible, I think, to be done on a small scale, but on a larger scale. Just like in the past where the churches saw a need to, say, set up sanitariums or hospitals or infirmaries or anything to do with mental health patients or people who are sick. Or just as in the past where churches or individuals who are Christian saw the importance of setting up relief agencies or orphanages and so forth. It's the same type of attitude that I believe that instead of some of these big churches just focus on trying some of the things they're doing, which is important, and it's a good step in the right direction. But I think that sooner or later, individuals or church body or pastor need to step forward and say, I'm just going to start an insurance company. I'm going to start something to deal with the pulling money together to be able to take care of the poor that are sick, whoever want to join into it. Because a lot of these, what you call it, non-profit, some of our non-profit, and then some of these insurance companies, they're for profit, but some of the exorbitant fees that are paid are salaries that are paid out to the head, the CEOs and the vice presidents and stuff like that. It's part of what driving up all the costs. Because what you have is you have all these middlemen, and they make it very difficult to take care of people who are sick because there's so much added cost. And the same thing goes for some of the work that is being done in the hospital, that the philosophy of the hospitals need to change, where the whole aim of making a person a doctor is to make him a multi-millionaire. This is one of the things that's driving up costs. Our original philosophy as a church was not to make doctors multi-millionaires and not to have these exorbitant costs that are involved, which now especially are driven up by also the insurance companies and then the pharmaceuticals. So I think sometimes for charitable purposes, there need to be this type of consideration on a larger scale to be able to enter some of these markets and to help with the care where some of these insurance companies pull out of the market, that you just basically have nonprofits step in and try to create insurance vehicles to be able to help, but not so much to be able to be profit driven, but to be mercy driven. And that should be one of the things. So that's a different discussion, and that's a discussion I'll keep just throwing it out there, because I keep thinking about it. Why not? Because so much of this has to go back to basically pooling money and basically pooling a group of people money and help pay for everybody as the year goes by. But part of the problem now that goes back to why it is so expensive for care goes back to the individual. The larger the person is, when a person goes from fat to obese to morbidly obese, each incremental step up in size makes it very expensive to give care, because the person becomes sicker with multiple diseases. Because the size of the person, you can always predict, okay, if a person is a certain size, especially if most of their fat is around their stomach area, waist area, abdominal area, then the person will end up having high blood pressure, diabetes, susceptible to stroke, susceptible to all other type of diseases, irritable bowel, chronic fatigue, all these different things. So the person is more expensive. It's just a given. It's just the reality. So this is where I believe now, when all has failed, where if the insurance companies is becoming a problem, now one of the best thing the individual can do is take their health into their own hand. That's one of the best things. When it becomes too expensive, one of the best thing one can do is to just take your health into your hand. And this is some of the things that they're doing there, which is encouraging different eating and a different lifestyle. I've noticed over the years that as I've gone to state parks, parks in general, anything to do with nature, the one thing I can say that is absent is black people. It doesn't matter if they're foreign black, native black, they're not present. You could go to a park and there's thousands of people and there's probably 10 blacks in the whole place. And it's mind-boggling. Anything to do with nature, if you go to a garden, if you go to any type of nature place where people go camping, it is the mindset where blacks don't do green, or don't do anything green. So don't eat green. They don't go to anywhere there's trees or flowers and stuff like that. It's a rarity. And it is very odd. I've been to places where there's a zoo, nice zoo. Like I've been to a zoo right over in, I think it was West Orange in New Jersey. And I was kind of impressed because the zoo was real nice. It was like a beautiful zoo. And if you know where West Orange is, it's close to like Newark. And I was there and I was kind of like taken aback. I was like, where's the black people? It is so close because East Orange is right next door. West Orange is more the white area of town. East Orange is next door. And then Newark is right there. And then Orange, the Orange is basically Newark, and some of these other towns. I can't remember them. And, you have those towns there and it's like the capital of black people in those areas, and just one town over, and they're not there, they're not present. If you go to parks, all the time you see, you don't find like blacks active. So there's something in the psyche that is part of the culture. It's not nature. It's not a DNA issue. 'Cause the original ancestry of blacks would be Africa. So tell me that that's green would be normal. So what had happened in America, where the urbanizing of blacks, because they were escaping the deep south to escape from the oppression in the south, has made blacks really just stay away from anything green. And I know that's part of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow law in America, where blacks just basically left those areas where they were used to be the farm workers, and they just escaped to the cities. But that has to be part of the the change, where that kind of mindset has to be educated in a different way as you move forward, because I believe this is one of the holdbacks, is not just the idea that they're afraid of doctors because doctors normally would experiment on them because they were blacks, but also the holdback is that you're not used to being in any other environment but urban, because that's where you're safe, because outside of that is where you were abused. But I believe that churches need to spend time ministry wise trying to get their communities that they are influencing the pastors to start to think more green. So to eat green and to actually be amongst things that are green. And I think this is part of it, because then when you're in a city area, it's just, you see some of the young men, they're there playing basketball, and that's about it. But the idea of like a young black family together going camping or going to the park and spending time, it is something that's not really happening. I think part of that is not so much probably for the female. I think most of it that has to do with the black male. As I said, the bigger problem is with them. They're not really cultured that way. You go to a park, you see black male. They're in the park, but they're probably barbecuing or just hanging out. You go to the beach, they're just on the beach, but they're not in the water, literally, using their muscle to the point where they probably get cramps. So it's just, you just stay in the city and you stay away from the water, you stay away from the trees, you stay away from all that, you just stay in the city. It's safe. I understand it's safe because, there's the experience wasn't pretty. So I believe this is part of it, that you have like such a culture that is developed, that the culture is like an ingrained culture, and it helped, I think, exacerbate the problem. So when we're talking about ministry, we got to think a little bit more outside the box as to how to move the culture in a positive direction, in a different direction, because this is what needs to be done. Because again, it's a different thing. It's like if you think about, just like I'm giving you a pictorial in your mind, or idea in your mind here, a word picture. If you think about it, it would more be normal to see like a white female with a dog jogging, running, walking, and it's a little toy dog. Then you see a black female. Normally you see even animals, you see them, blacks would more want to have the animals that are more dangerous, like the pit bulls and the big Doberman pinchers and the big Rottweiler and stuff like that. It's a different concept. So imagery is also part of it. It's part of it. So that whole mindset has to be re-educated. And I'll just say this because this came to my mind, and then I'll go back to my list because I have a list here I'm working off. When you look at even Martin Luther King Jr., when they killed him, one of the things that he was trying to do, he was saying that we have to build institutions. So the rest of what I'm talking about here is that importance, because the moment you start talking about building your own institutions, having your own banks, having your own system, it was time for the white culture to kill him, because he had gone too far. Because true independence demands institutions, demands your own system, as you're still enslaved. And that's basically why, like, if I would mention to somebody that you need to have your own insurance company, somebody would be like, why would you do that? Because you're still begging. If you read the article, you listen to the mindset. The mindset is still like semi-enslaved. You still want the government to pass a bill. Like, forget about that. That's a waste of time. If they do it, good for them. But if they don't, you build your own institutions. You still want issues with insurance. Well, you go build your own insurance company. You still don't have the doctors. Where you go encourage the kids in your church, and you literally say we're willing to put money on it to help the kids go to school to become doctors. If you don't believe in that, then you build your own system, you build your own school, which they already have schools, and then you teach the philosophy that the doctors need to have, that they're not just coming out to go work for, the various different John hospitals, but they're coming out to literally become a doctor in the local communities, so that the people can trust you, so that they can get their checkups. You work to build your own institution, and that was to me the primary reason why they decided, well, no, they had enough of Martin Luther King Jr. Because now what you're gonna do is you're gonna actually truly free the people. So when you understand that freedom is literal freedom, you get the shackles off. And if you understand Isaiah 58, you take the shackles off. The whole idea of the true gospel is that you make the man truly free, because freedom is loved by God. So you build your own institution. So first, in order for you to build your own institution, you have to have your baseline message. What is the drive? Well, I believe in a clean and unclean message, in the sense that there's foods that should not be eaten and there's foods that should be eaten. There's lifestyle practices that should not be done and there's lifestyle practices that should be done. And there's lifestyle when it comes on to inside of your home and your surroundings that should be clean, and there's certain unclean behaviors that shouldn't be happening amongst you in your home. This is basic, because this is basic to health. Your lungs need fresh air, and your bodies need clean clothes, and so forth. Basic, very important baseline that changes the way a person live and feel and their health. So the diet should be avoiding, pork, all these unclean, sick food. A pig will eat a dead carcass, no matter if it's human beings or wild animal. That animal should never be eaten. So that's some baseline concepts there. So the lifestyle is important also, because if you notice that says, like, again, the big problem with the opiate epidemic, again, is lifestyle, taking in all these terrible substances in the body to feel good and only killing each other. A plant-based diet, this is all biblical health message. Plant-based diet, if you know cleanliness is next to godliness, a plant-based diet, which is a hygienic diet. The more plant-based the diet is the more hygienic the diet is. Again, this is worth a whole bunch of money. A person that changed their diet and do a plant-based diet will start removing many of the diseases that cause the healthcare to be so expensive. Natural health laws. So it is important to understand that there's natural health laws, that there are laws that are there that are not per se written in stone, but they're important. You must be active. So this is, again, go back to why I'm saying, if you have to have a baseline philosophy, you must be active. You either have a treadmill or you go outside and walk. You need fresh air, so you need a clean surrounding. You need water. You need just a basic health message. That when you teach that becomes part of the building block. So first we deal with what is being put forward. Again, the churches are being forced to start to tell people to cut off the fried chicken. But when you have basic health principles, that's part of what the church has to teach. Because you got to get off the fried food. Again, because you are in a city, many blacks are in cities and they're urbanized. They're stuck eating a lot of Chinese or Asian foods, but they're not real Asian foods, because you notice the Asians don't look like the people they're feeding. Normally Asians, they're getting worse now because they're eating more Americanized, but the Asians normally are very slim because their diet is very light and their diet is very easy on their body. But when they do the buffets and stuff like that, they're feeding people that are huge, because it's just a lot of deep fried food. It's not a lot of healthy food. So again, instead of complaining and say, oh yeah, these guys are feeding us and killing us, start open up your restaurant. I think there's a movement in the black society to open up soul food restaurants. There need to be a shift away from that. We're going to get to that in a second. So anyhow, health laws, very important. So, your good nutrition, your exercise, water, your sunlight, your self-control, fresh air, rest, and you trust in God. God always is the part of what we do. Avoid stimulants, from the lifestyle, whether it be where you drink it or you eat it. You avoid stimulants. Stimulants only corrupt the mind and make one become dumber and dumber because it destroys the neurological system. You want to avoid that. That is now a big push in the black community, especially among black men. Black men are encouraged through the music to partake of marijuana, partake of lean, partake of all these different type of substances that are basically like drinking cough medicine. All right, now to the point. Institutions, because I believe this is what has been missing in the black community and in many communities, and I think this is important now because see, I'm at a few minutes here. Okay, so the ministries and institutions are not being developed amongst other communities, especially I noticed in the black community and even Hispanic communities. So if you look in a church, where the church used to have a lot of institutions that were built by the white part of the church, the European part of the church, this has not been duplicated by the groups that are now replacing the whites in the church. As the whites die out in the church and turn more pagan, we have not seen the institutions being built. So the blacks or the Hispanics and so forth, Asians, they're not really institutional built. And these groups are becoming a larger part of the membership of the church. Yet, that part of the message, you look at what Ellen G. White presented and what the Bible normally, would teach, and you combine those things, normally the end result is you build institutions. The European part of the church built those institutions. As they die off, the institutions closed. And the people that are more congregated, what we call the Christian church, the Adventist church, you're not seeing them building institutions. As you see some of the big health ministries, the build ministries kind of falling away or closing down, you find that, there's churches and people going to the church, but they don't build institutions. And this is especially true in the black community. The black churches are not big in institutions. They're just big in worship and music. They love music. And they put so much effort. If they put half the effort that they put in music and getting excited in institutions, we would have we see some phenomenal institution that would bless the whole of America. But it's not what's happening. So that part of the message is either they're not aware of it, they're not aware that that's part of Christianity, you just build institutions, or they never embraced it, or they just don't know how to do it, since institutions were more a dominant feature of the white culture. And this is what I think happening. So what are some of the institutions? Cooking schools. We have not seen much of that. We see some things on TV and on the internet, but we're just a concerted effort to teach both the church and the community to cook natural and healthy. This is need to be happening, not just in media, but also at church facilities. This is something that I'm endeavoring to do more. Cooking schools, just teaching people how to cook plant-based, healthy choices. I always say to a person, if you listen to me talk here, you come to a health seminar, and if you only did even 5%, just say I'm going to do 5%. That's 5% increase on your health. It will be well worth your time here, spent with me from morning to morning. So I always encourage people, just try something natural. Some of the institutions that are needed that will help reverse some of these trends in obesity and all these death rates that are happening in sickness, that your people are so desperate. And many of these are not, hard to do per se. Sanitariums, and hospitals. Remember, 80% of all the hospitals in America were started by churches, so to speak. Rest of them by government. Few of the hospitals were even started by for-profit companies or non-profit. Most of it was Presbyterian, Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, Adventist. And to this day, you see that most of the big hospitals were connected to a church. The reality is most of the big universities like Princeton, Harvard, all those institutions were started by churches again. So when you understand that that's the concept that churches build institutions. And this concept need to be embraced by the church. This was the concept that is needed. But again, I think because of historical oppression and because this idea that we all want to be one together, that the churches just never made a move to start institutions. So now you have churches that the focal point is a path to become a multi-millionaire. That was never supposed to be the focus. The focus was, and now, the pastor was to be a multimillionaire and the members prosper. Well, how can you prosper if you don't have good institution? So again, retreats, historically, that was a major thing of churches. You have retreats. If you look at some of the big institution churches, they would have retreats. That I don't see is something that, unless I've missed something, I don't see this as something that, say, the black churches do. They don't seem to do retreats. At least that's what I see. So that's something that needs to do. Now I know somebody say, Lloyd, how are they gonna build retreats? They're not gonna go there. They don't even go to parks for free. Well, that's why I say part of the education has to be. You have to re-educate, because that's why I started here first. First, you have to re-educate the person, because if you build a retreat and you say to a person, remember that, oh, we're having a retreat, what we're going to do, we're going to be eating healthy. We're going to be eating healthy. We're going to basically teach, biblical meditation. We're going to do seminars on dealing with stress, health seminars, cooking demonstration, and we're going to be eating healthy, juicing, doing all of that. I understand there are some churches, there will be a revolt. But this is where I talk about the education from the message and the building the institution. You can build an institution, nobody comes because people are not in that mindset. They don't see the value in it. That's part of, to me, the urbanizing and the oppression of black people. They just don't have the culture for it because they see that as probably white culture or something. But retreats is something that needs to be done. Health food stores are needed. If you notice, under President Obama, his wife was pushing this thing. I never really got into the full concepts of it, but I just believe that this was something that we're supposed to do, pushing to have more food, real food in the community. Because the black culture is almost built up now, where you go to the convenience store, you buy a lot of packaged products. So not really used to eating real food. So that has to be something that's pushed. I believe it's good for the church to do this. And why I keep saying the church should do this? Because it has to be done from a ministry point of view, not so much from just a financial gains point of view. And the reason why is that it's going to take a while. You have to be actually doing both things at the same time. You have to be trying to put the facility or the institution in, and then educate, because you have a population that basically has been urbanized and has developed a culture that is not natural. It's an unnatural culture, a culture that creates people that are obese and really ignorant of nature and nature's law and nature's God. So you now have to go in now and educate in that idea, and really educate that it's not so much about white culture and all this type of stuff, break that stigma, but it's just about human beings. You're a human, and your body does better with the diet that God originally created for you to have. Your life is better when you interact with nature more, even though you have been urbanized because of Jim Crow and slavery. So again, health food stores, important to push. Deli, I believe health deli, natural deli, where the options are more healthier. Restaurants, most actually plant-based restaurants, these are more and more coming up. So you have healthier options. As you say, you look at where Whole Foods, and normally you could tell what's going on. You go into the community now that is black, so you can't even find anything healthy to eat. And some black communities are trying to change that. But as I said, there's a push to have more soul food restaurant, while in the white community they're pushing more whole food, supermarket. So this is where that change needs to be, and this is where the church need to step in. This was the mandate of the church. If you think about the Seventh Adventist Church, there was supposed to be a mandate, but that part of the message got lost. For what I don't know, I guess for doctrine, the doctrinal focus. Health supplements. This is something that I do. I believe in natural supplements, so that you have a natural option in comparison to always depend upon drugs. Natural food company. So natural food company, where you're producing foods that are more natural. So instead of there always be all this option for these packaged foods that are dangerous, that are causing obesity. Because remember, as I say, some of the people with the worst diet in America are Black Americans, are poor rural white Americans. So you need to be education. I remember a few years back, I tried to do a vegan restaurant in West Virginia. And I think it lasted probably 8 months, and then I had to close shop. And one of the things that I remember thinking about that restaurant again, and I remember learning from that because I said I think they were making a mistake. I didn't think, I just said they were making a mistake. And why I thought they were making a mistake doing that, because they didn't go with a team to teach at the same time. So if I was gonna do something like that, how I would do it is I would have to have one team deal with the restaurant. So if it's one couple deal with the restaurant, I would have to have another second or two couples that are at least probably four people or two people, one couple or two couples that are just focused on education. You have to almost, you can't advertise your way into sales, because it's not like you inform somebody that you have a vegan restaurant, you're going to succeed in an area like West Virginia, talking about poor whites who still probably eat squirrels. You're going to have to be trying to educate them into changing their mindset or being open to see the benefits of a plant-based diet. And you think about it, West Virginia, Tennessee are two of the worst areas when it comes on to sick people, people who are uninsured. So important the education, because even as I look at this list, why this list would probably fail, these type of institutions and businesses fail in a black community, in most black communities, is because you would have to educate the people as to why they would have to need to eat healthy. The re-education would have to start. You would have to start with a historical narrative, how we got here, why we urbanized, why are we afraid of going outside of our urban centers, and then you start the education backwards, and then get to who you are as a human being, created in God's image, put in a garden to be able to eat a plant-based diet. So, natural food companies, important. Medical missionary schools. So medical schools is one way to say it, or medical missionary schools, schools that teach medical professionals to deal with things from a natural point of view. Treatment rooms and clinics. That means in a more urban setting, it would be very expensive to build probably the hospital sanitarium, which is best, the sanitariums are best to do, and retreats are best to do in a rural area. So in the cities, just have a room where you can just do some natural remedies and try to help people, teach people mostly how to be healthy from a day-to-day basis. This is what is needed, and as they say, it's a bigger need in the urban centers, and especially also in the rural areas where there's probably more rural whites, to help them overcome these obesity problems and these problems that are plaguing them primarily due to miseducation and misinformation. Media type of things is radio, print, TV, internet. So if you see me here doing internet radio, it's because I have the opportunity to educate with the limited resources I have. But at least I believe in what I do, so that I do what I do. I believe this is the right way to go. So this is why I do like the internet radio. So as long as I do Revive Reform, I have an opportunity for somebody to find by accident. And, just when I say accident, I mean they're searching for something, click, listen, and then come back and keep listening, and might improve their health or improve their spiritual lives. So I really believe in this type of thing, radio, internet, print, TV, just to improve the health. So this is what we need, because, as I say, if you look at the problem, there are churches with thousands of people. That some of these things I'm talking about, the reality is that a church, well organized and led properly, could do some of these things. I mean, could do anything on this list, literally. Anything. Anything you see on my list here. There are churches, there are black churches, individual black churches that could do these things for the sheer size. Now, the big problem is going to be the education. That would be the big problem. There's many churches in the land that could do this. Anything. Now, any small church could do this, because as I say, myself, with a very small church, I'm doing a few things off this list. So that tells me that a church, if they have the right mindset and the right drive, and they really love their people, and they're tired to visit people in the hospital and bury people young, couldn't really get the owners to say, "Are we going to do any of these things? We're going to see a hospital closing, and we just go, we're going to bite. Are we going to take it over? And we're going to run it, and we're going to run it profitable, or we're going to break even, and we're going to be successful." Any church can do this. It's just the problem is, and there's so many big churches that is pulling in big money, that's making multimillionaires out of the pastors, that if the pastor decide that he's going to follow Jesus and he's going to do the right things on behalf of the members, he could lead his church to actually take care of the community and the church at the same time. But they keep thinking that the way to go is to pass legislation. We have seen how that works, because you're trying to ask people who historically don't like you to vote to do legislation on your behalf. And that to me is, well, it's a game that is overplayed, and they need to stop it. It's a waste of time. If people don't like you, just leave them alone. Just go ahead and build your own institutions. Go ahead and support your own institutions. Go ahead and work together for the better of your community. This is more the mindset that is needed. This is a mindset that will bring success. But at this point here, to say that you're going to depend upon the government to give you handouts or to pass favorable legislation and stuff like that, you might get somewhere, but I think the black leaders are fooling the people. It's not really working. These are the same group of people that and their forefathers that gave us slavery, gave us Jim Crow law, gave us the war on drugs, gave us the drug epidemic, flooded the black communities with crack and stuff like that. So notice here now we have a switch going on. Now that the white community is having their own drug epidemic, they're now classifying it as is it a crime to be a drug addict and to do things that the drugs push you to do. Now they're saying it's a disease. But when the blacks were going through it, they say it's a war. And we need to declare war on drugs. It really was a war in the black community. So this is the same group of people who have done that. So I think there's a point where the black churches are failing, where they're supposed to be like Christ, step up and say, we're going to bless our people, because all men are created in God's image. There's no need to oppress and abuse any people. Just take care of the people. Bless the people. Just bless all human beings. And as I say, what we're talking about here applies across the board. No matter who is oppressed, the Bible says you help the oppressed. No matter if it's the poor whites, if the blacks, is the whatever group, just help them. And I think the way to help them is for those who are following Christ and who have the love of God inside of them to just go ahead and do like what I've committed to do, is with whatever little resource I have, I do health food, not so much health food, but supplements. I do the radio, I do church, health seminars, whatever, because I know what pain is like, and I know what relief from pain is like, and it's good to have some relief. And so whether it be lifestyle modification, diet modification, supplementation, exercise, all drinking water, enjoying nature, loving nature more, whatever it is that it takes to be able to not only live pain-free or with less pain and enjoy some good, natural, clean life. That's what we need to. We need strong males. Too many of the males in the society and in the church are just like the worst. And we need strong male Christians. We need men that are heading up household, men that are heading up their church, that want to build families and build institutions. And that's what really is missing. And when we get that, then you see the change will happen. But until then, what you see is the obese men, the men that are sleeping around, the men that are not leading up households. And we see the continued failure in society. And that's what is missing. So thanks for being with me on Revive Reform Radio here. We pray to close. We thank you, Lord, for blessing us and guiding us. I pray, dear Lord, that you may continue to give us the education that we are so in need of, that we might know best well how to take care of our fellow human beings and how to live healthy and live a glorious life for thee. May you be with us as we go through the rest of this name. This is our prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow morning when we shall talk about natural health. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.